There was a time once when restrictions were lighter in Victoria, when we weren't all stuck in our homes with nothing to do. These little windows of opportunity where you could meet with an old friend and go to Sorrento for the day before it was too late, grasping on what little time we had. So this is Liz. She's a writer, she's an artist, she's a horror fan like me, and she's one of the many guides that I've had in my very short life. She and I took a 2-hour bus ride from one side of the Mornington Peninsula to the other. We talked about life and its uneven progression in 2020, and I just told her that I was taking a direction in my life and moving out.
It's a hell of a year to be doing it.
It is a hell of a year. Really, I think
it's a hell of a year to be doing a lot of things.
I think I decided to be moving out because I knew I was going to be really stagnant this year. That I've already been stagnant for the past few months. I'm not training, I've been stumbling through my job search, and I keep saying that I'm going to create something, but I never really do.
See, I think there's potential once the pandemic is a lot more under control for there to be interesting new opportunities, because the world can't go back to the way it was.
It's weird, that first bus ride to an unfamiliar place, seeing these unfamiliar stops. I mean, the farthest I travelled on the 788 was Dramana. 10 years in the state, and I never ventured it beyond, and then, finally, we arrived.
Yeah, I believe it's called the Mechanics Institute. That's now a museum, so you can go in there for information about Sorrento and Portsea, like Mornington Peninsula generally, but they also deal with the shipwrecks. There's a lot of shipwrecks in the area.
That was the first thing we saw, a little house from another time, taken and slapped into this one.
It is tiny. It is essentially one room, and I think it was a family of 6 that lived in there. I don't know how they managed it. Just the bedrooms were just curtained off. It's like they wouldn't have bathed in there, they would have bathed outside. There's no bathroom, there's no toilet or anything like that.
And this was essentially how our day went. We would go from gallery to store, looking at art from local artists, pretty pictures of cockatoos, shellfish, crucifixes that I find kind of strange, soaps, jewellery that I wasn't necessarily allowed to film, and I didn't. And we would go and we would talk about life. This is the only shot of me in this, which is a shame because I worked really hard on my outfit. And then next was the Antipods bookshop and gallery. Outside looked very old, but inside it's different, it's modern, like any sort of trendy, kitschy bookshop you'd see in any small town. Your fair share of trendy new non-fiction and motivational books, biographies, just things that are trending, things that people I haven't actually seen buy before. These lovely reprints. And down below was a kids section of the library, with a storybook place where children would go and they'd buy the books that would define their childhood. This part of bookshops really intrigue me because, kids are really encouraged to read, and I want to know what they're reading. Did you ever have a favorite children's book as a kid?
Anything by Roald Dahl.
Oh, Roald Dahl's incredible. I think James and the Giant Peach was the first full novel I ever read.
I was in a stage production of that in primary school.
Really?
The Earthworm. Yeah. I was in a sleeping bag with a top hat.
Fantastic.
And
honestly.
They painted a lightning bolt on my face. I don't know what that was about.
Costume design. Am I right?
And I couldn't move. I was in it like this, and they had to lift me off stage.
We walked through the town and we made it to an antique shop. And this was the most beautiful antique shop I'd ever seen. It was so full and eclectic, and you see all these things just packed next to each other. There was so much stuff, so much interesting stuff, and I just wanted to take it all home with me. I wasn't permitted to film the jewellery again, but, I didn't have to. There was just so many teacups and chessboards and so much stuff that I found extremely fashionable. I was encouraged to climb up the stairs and see it from the top, and even from there I saw some really beautiful stuff. Up the stairs I went to see a full picture of the place, but this is where all the secondhand books were, all the posters, all the beautiful hats, and this stuff was from quite early in the 20th century, clearly. And that's definitely my favourite part of history. Just a lovely building. The cinema's closed, obviously. I've heard that it's haunted, and I'd love to go back and see it again. And next was the deli. I always quite like fancy delis. You know, the place where you see all the stuff that you thought you'd never see again, that you saw at a market this one time. I managed to take something home as well. You know, all these beautiful wines, and they're all surprisingly quite well priced. Then Liz and I got some fancy paninis from this fancy deli, and this is when we had our lunch break. We sat at the beach on a picnic desk, and we would eat these lovely, great sandwiches, and we'd talk, and we'd look out into the ocean, into the clear blue sky, and we'd people watch. We'd see all the boats going past, and we'd wonder if anyone is going on a ferry right now. We would wander through the park. We would look at the trees. It was something straight out of a fantasy novel. You know, at some point you just imagine that you cross into another world when you see these flowers and these giant trees, and you just think about how much life is in them. You see the playgrounds that you would enjoy as a kid, and you'd look out into the ocean. And you'd walk with your friend, and you would go unsuccessfully cryptid hunting.
We need more cryptids, damn it.
And you walk down the beach. I didn't know how much I'd missed the beach until now. Granted, it was going to be out of season to go anyway. But still, you think...
But he was a successful politician in Melbourne. That was his holiday house. So he had a house in a city, and he built this for his holidays. And he would have guests stay, and he would entertain them by performing plays on the stage he had built.
When am I going to see it again? Next was a cemetery, and it was a trek to get there, up and down hills, but it was worth it. This was the biggest cemetery I've ever been to, including the one in Paris. Just a bunch of graves of different times all put together like a mishmash of time.
So why do you love Sorrento so much?
Why do I love it? Because it's near the beach. You know, it's a bayside town. The history, it's sort of a little bit more positive than a lot of places that you get around. A lot of it is retained from when it was first settled.
And this cemetery was huge. It stretched all the way down a hill into the valley and then back up. Granted, we couldn't go far because I believe there was a funeral that was finishing just down that hill. But I was able to get some great shots just showing the pure scope of the place. And you think, this is how many people have died. And you think that the place you live in is so small. But it's not. And that's how we spent the end of the day. We would trek all the way back to the city, and by then, you know, one quick stop to a toy shop, and it was a real toy shop, you know. It wasn't like a Toys R Us. It was everything puppets and everything made of wood and fake balloons, and it felt like the ones that Liz would see as a kid. It was like a toy shop the way that children would see it. And then I almost got gelato, but I didn't. And then I walked back and we waited for the bus. It's always the journey back that you find the most exhausting. You find very little to say because everything's already been said. So Liz and I just sort of sat together in silence. Kind of. We spoke a little bit, but we spoke a little and then we sat in silence. And then I went home and thought about how much I was going to miss the world. I think we all do. And that is the end of my little mini documentary vlog thing. I really hope you enjoyed it. I also implore that you support my friend Liz. Her Instagram is here, Elizabeth's Curios. Her art and sculptures are absolutely amazing, and she has written a book called Mulberry Manor, which is fantastic, and I really recommend you check it out on Amazon or Kindle. And she is also releasing a second one called There's a Shoggoth in My Bath, and it looks really quite fantastic. I'm not really hugely sure what I want to do with this channel as far as making videos go. This one I've had in the back burner for a while, but I hope you guys are all staying safe. All right, bye.